bookish people, welcome back to my channel. My name is Megan. In today's video, we are going to be doing my October TBR. These are all the books I plan to read in the month of October. I just want to address really quickly the lighting and the video quality for this video. I currently have no power in my house. I live in Southwest Florida. If you've been watching the news, you know that we were hit by Hurricane Ian. That was on Wednesday, and that's when we lost power. It is currently Saturday. We still have no power, and our county is under a boil water notice, but you know what? I'm still filming my October TBR, and I'm going to go search for Wi-Fi so I can upload this video, and I'm going to try to film it in one take because I do not want to waste too much of my phone battery. But yeah, that's kind of currently what's going on. Also too, it's not even like the power that's that big of a deal because, you know, I know people that have generators. My boyfriend's parents still have power, so I can always go charge my phone there. Really what's messed up about this area is the lack of cell service. Cell service is super spotty, like especially in my house right now. Like I have to go to my driveway to even get service, and then like my boyfriend doesn't have service at all. So it has just been crazy and hectic here. Yeah, it's just really crazy. I live right in between Fort Myers and Naples, and they were just like really badly affected. I live in Bonita, which the coastline of Bonita was also really badly affected, but it's not that big of a city, so I feel like people aren't talking about it as much because, well, especially Fort Myers, they were just completely devastated and wiped out, which is so sad because these are places that I frequent, that I go to, and it's just really sad just to see them destroyed. Luckily, our house didn't have that much damage. I mean, our actual house itself didn't have any damage whatsoever. Again, we live inland, so we didn't experience the storm surge or flooding, but the winds were super high all day. One of our shutters flew off of our house, which really scared me because I was like, oh my God, because like the shutters are up so that basically things don't fly and break your window during the storm. You know, so that kind of opened up our windows, but luckily nothing hit us. And also too, our fence, we have double doors on our fence that open like this way. They only open one way, right? They open this way, but the wind was pushing this way, and we tried to secure them, but our fence door just snapped off. So you know what, if our fence is the only thing that got damaged and that's the only thing that's going to cost us money, I feel so lucky and grateful, because just seeing the videos of Fort Myers Beach and downtown Naples, it's just so heartbreaking. So yeah, I just kind of went to that rant because I don't know, that's just what's going on in my life. That's why the quality of this video, the lighting is not that great, but we persevere on. So this is my October TBR. It was actually originally way bigger than this. I think I had like 25 books on my TBR. I definitely narrowed it down because that 25 book TBR was pre-Hurricane Ian, and now that like my whole life is just kind of not normal at the moment, I definitely shortened down my TBR. We'll even see if all of these end up getting read. I mean, really just kind of my whole flow is like messed up because I have my own business. I sell on Poshmark and eBay. Without power, I can't list new inventory in my stores. I can't ship items because I can't print out labels. There's just so much things I can't do. I also can't source for inventory because all the places that I go to get inventory either experienced some sort of flooding, or they don't have power, or just who knows what's going on, right? So it's just kind of like my whole flow is messed up in the morning. My schedule, my daily routine is messed up. So you know what? I shortened my TBR. I mean, it's still a pretty big TBR, not gonna lie, but let's just get into it. First I'm gonna start off with my book of the month picks because, well, actually, hopefully those even get delivered to the house. I don't even know if I'm gonna get my book of the month picks. Book of the month picks released on Wednesday during the hurricane, and I was like, you know what? I don't even care about my cell phone battery. I need my book of the month picks. Well, also I was prepared with like backup batteries for my cell phone, but I need my book of the month picks. And so in the middle of the hurricane, I'm like going on Goodreads, like reading all the reviews, and like the synopsis is I picked 3 books for my October box, but again, due to the current circumstances of my area, I just don't know when mail is gonna resume. But I picked Foul Lady Fortune by Chloe Gong, so that is definitely on my TBR for this month. I picked Spells for Forgetting by Adrian Young. That is also on my TBR for this month. And the last book I picked is The Kiss Curse by Erin Sterling, which again is going to be on my TBR for this month. As always, my book of the month picks are always on my TBR for the month I select them, but don't always get read in that month. So, you know, we'll try our best. But let's get started. Let's just get started on this. I have my books separated into paperbacks and hardbacks, so maybe we'll just like alternate. The first book on my TBR is I Told You This Would Happen by Elaine Murphy. This book I have had for a few months now. The reason I haven't read it is because they never made an audiobook for this book, and I read primarily through audiobooks. So when they don't have an audiobook, you know, and it takes me a little longer to read them. So this book, Look What You Made, or that was the original book, Look What You Made Me Do, that is the book that becomes before this. I think they're kind of like, well, they're not really standalones. I guess like they're marketing this as in you can read this without reading the first one. But if you read the first one, it gives you a lot more context, I could imagine, because even like the synopsis for this book spoils the first book. But basically we have, Carrie and her sister Becca is a serial killer. She's at some sort of true crime group and she realizes that she could be implicated in one of Becca's murders. So she goes like on this whole adventure to try to remove herself from that crime, remove any evidence of her from the crime. And basically it's like Finley Donovan has a serial killer sister. That is basically how I describe the first book, and I'm very excited to read this book as well. This is going to be on my TBR for the month of October, and yeah, I definitely want to get that read because it has been on my TBR for a while, but again, I have not really been physically reading. I've been primarily with audiobooks. The next book on my TBR is The Man Who Died Twice by Richard Osmond. This is the second book in the Thursday Murder Club series, which is a cozy mystery series featuring 4 senior citizens at a retirement village, and they just try to solve true crime cases. I mean, in the first book, they have the Thursday Murder Club, right, where they try to solve true crime, as I just mentioned, but then a real-time murder happens in their community, and they're trying to solve that as well. This is the sequel to it. I don't really know what this one's about. I didn't want to read the synopsis. I just want to go into it and have a good time. The first book I rated 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. I'm very excited to read this one. I actually currently have the audiobook checked out on Libby, but I just don't know if I'm going to be able to listen to it by the time my rental period is up, because again, I'm not on my daily flow of working, and I really am trying to preserve my phone batteries, so I'm trying not to listen to audiobooks. So, you know, again, we shall see what happens, but yeah, this is on my TBR for this month. I said I was going to alternate and then I didn't. Okay, the first book, I guess, from my hardback pile that's on my TBR is Before the Coffee Gets Cold. This is by Toshikazu Kawaguchi, and I am so excited to read this book. This has been on my radar on my TBR for a while, and whenever I pop into Barnes & Noble, I'd always see if they had this in stock, and my Barnes & Noble never carried it up until recently. They finally put it on their shelves, and I think it's because it became so popular like on TikTok and booktube and all that stuff that they're starting to carry it. Because I noticed Barnes & Noble, they're like starting to like carry more like Kindle Unlimited books like Zodiac Academy and all these books that I feel like I wouldn't normally see there. They're starting to like sell more like self-published authors or stuff that's going viral on BookTok, which is really cool to see. So I got this book. This book is a like, I don't want to say magical realism because I think it's more technically sci-fi, but it's very light sci-fi. It's about a cafe. I believe it's in Tokyo. It's somewhere in Japan. Yes, it is in a small back alley of Tokyo. And in this cafe, you can time travel. And the rule of the time travel is you have to come back before the coffee gets cold, hence the title. And basically in this book, I think we're following 4 different perspectives. So I think it's 4 short stories of people going back in time to fix whatever happens in their life. So I'm very excited to read this book. Again, been on my radar for a while, very excited to get my hands on a physical copy of it, and this will definitely be read this month because trust me, I have been dying to read this book for a while. The next books on my TBR, they're just kind of all going to go together, and that is Spy Family Volumes 3, 4, and 5. I read Spy Family Volume 1 and 2 in September, so you'll see that in my September wrap-up. And so I went before the hurricane. I was like, okay, I'm going to just get the next 3 because I planned on reading so much during the hurricane. But then I basically could not stop watching Weather Channel. And then once our power went out, I just went to the window and I was just staring out the window because it was just insane. The wind was insane. I thought the tree was gonna snap. Our fence, just so much was going on. I literally could not look away from one of the windows. I mean, I know I said we had shutters, but for our back slider doors, we have a lanai, so it was pretty protected. So we didn't put shutters there, and I was just looking out. And yeah, I just could not look away. So I bought these 3 during the hurricane. Didn't end up happening, so I'm very excited to read them now. I am obsessed with this manga series. This is the first manga series that I've ever read. I've only read the first 2 volumes, but I've read a few graphic novels, but manga is where it's at. Okay, I feel like based on my very limited experience in graphic novels and manga, I would say I have a preference or manga is better because I feel like the stories are so much more detailed than in graphic novels and you get so much more like information. I don't know, you just like, My struggle with graphic novels is I feel like I never really connect to the characters because, I don't know, I feel like you don't get much of them, but like in this, I feel like I'm like actually connecting to the characters and I actually really care about them. So yeah, I'm very excited about this and I really want to watch the anime as well. So these are on my TBR for next month and then maybe the rest of the series depending if I get these read. The next book on my TBR is The Sorority Murder by Allison Brennan. This book follows, well, let's see, I'm going to read you what up here, okay? As is a popular sorority girl in Unsolved Murder, a campus podcast with chilling repercussions. That's all I read. That's all I need to read to know that I want to read this book. And I really like to go into my mystery thrillers rather blind. I don't like to know what's going to happen to them because I feel like the synopsis can sometimes spoil things. And I just like to figure things out on my own when it comes to mystery thrillers. So that's all I know. On the front, it says, they vowed never to tell. Now that promise may be broken. Very excited. Can't wait to read it. This is one of those books I just like randomly added to my Goodreads TBR. Then I found a hardcover at the thrift store for like $2. And I was like, oh, hell yeah. I'm gonna buy that and now I'm gonna read it. And what better time to read it than spooky season October? The next book on my TBR is All of Us Villains by Amanda Foodie and Christine Lynn Herman. This book, I'm not really sure what it's about. I mean, I do know what it's about generally. So again, this is one of those cases that I read the synopsis once, added it to my TBR. I bought it at a Barnes & Noble buy one, get one 50% off sale. Basically, I think this is like a magical version of Hunger Games. So I think it follows like 7 families. And it's kind of like a Hunger Games-esque, right? Like a fight to the death tournament. And I think there's like some magical elements to the world as well. And I'm very excited to read it. If you compare anything to Hunger Games, I'm gonna want to read it. Like Battle Royale, which is a translated work. It's a really thick book. That book recently came onto my radar and I really want to read it because it's basically like a Hunger Games style book and I love the Hunger Games. It's such a fun, like that premise for a book is just so much fun. Like it's like death and like destruction, but like it's fun to read about in a fictional sense. So yeah, I'm very excited to read this book and I know it's a duology, so the sequel / final book just came out. So if I like this one, I'll be reading the next one as well. The next book on my TBR is The Island by Adrian Mckinty. So he is also the author of The Chain, both of which I own, both of which I haven't read. This book specifically, I think, is the one that is the 2022 release. Let me just see. May 2022, yes. And this one I also thrifted. Don't you love that? Don't you love, you can see I paid $5 where it says 2022, $5. Actually, why did I have to go look in there when it says it right here? I don't know, I'm dumb. So yes, I got this for $5 at the thrift store. I cannot beat it. And I think this originally came from Costco based on that sticker. Anyway, so it is about a family that goes to an island and I think sinister things start happening and I'm very excited to read it. It sounds like a fun time. October is just the time for mystery thrillers because it's spooky season, but I feel like I don't really have to explain that to everybody because everybody just gets it. October, spooky season, mystery thrillers, and this one is on my TBR for sure. The next book on my TBR is Legendborn by Tracy Deonn. This is another one. Read the synopsis, added it to my TBR, and now I own it. And I don't remember what the synopsis is. Like, I can't really tell you, okay? I just know I have never heard one bad word spoken about this book. I have only heard not even positive reviews, but like raving reviews of people absolutely obsessed and loving this book. Like, have I even seen a rating below a 4-star on this book? I don't think so. So I'm very excited to read it. It has an award on it. It's the Coretta Scott King Award. And honestly, like, that is so cool. Like, it looks so cool. I mean, I'm just obsessed. The cover, everything. And I love YA fantasy. You can't go wrong with YA fantasy. This was really popular when I first started watching booktube. I know a lot of people were hyping this book up. At that point in my life, I was very stingy with buying books from Barnes & Nobles, and I primarily thrifted all the books that I owned. So I didn't read that at this time, but now the sequel's coming out. I know everyone's going to be talking about it. I have FOMO, so I want to read this book so that I can read the sequel. I want to be in on it. So yeah, I'm very excited to read this. And again, you can never go wrong with YA fantasy. I mean, you can. Like, some of them are bad, but like this one doesn't seem to be one of them. This one I'm very excited to read. The next book on my TBR is Beartown by Frederick Bachmann. So this book I actually also have checked out on Libby currently. My hold came through for it. I, have it in my library currently, but again, I'm just like out of my flow, so I don't know if I'm gonna read it before the time runs out on my loan, but we shall see. This book, I don't really know what it's about. I know it's about a small town that has a hockey tournament or whatever, or their like local hockey youth league is going to go to state champions and they really need to win it because something tragic happened in their small town, and honestly, I don't really even care what the synopsis is. I think that's correct, but I don't care what it is because I know I love Anxious People by Frederick Bachmann and I just want to read more by him. I did start A Man Called Ove back in February and I DNF'd it. Well, I hate to say I DNF'd it because I didn't hate it, but I would say I paused it. You know, I put a pause on that book. I mean, I guess we're in October. I still haven't like picked it back up and like resumed it. But that one, maybe I should add that to this TBR and maybe I should finish it. That book was on so many of my TBRs. I finally started it and I like got halfway and I stopped listening to it. I don't know, the audiobook, I just wasn't feeling it. Maybe I have to physically read it. I'm not sure. But you know what? I'm going to give Frederick Bachmann a second chance to captivate me. Because Anxious People, 5-star read, absolutely obsessed, absolutely love. So I'm very excited to read this, especially this one. I hear a lot of rave reviews about as well. So can't wait to read it. And I also have the sequel to this book as well because I have thrifted both of the first one and the sequel, which is called like One of Us or something, in the thrift store. Both hardcover editions. Don't we love to see it? I just love thrifting, okay, you guys? I just love thrifting and I love thrifting all my books. Especially when I find hardcovers editions of books I want to read. Like, it's cool when you find it in paperback and you're like, okay, I want to read that. Cool, I found it. But when you find a hardcover of something you want to read, it's just like even more joy brought to your life. The next book I plan on reading is Neon Gods by Katie Roberts. So in September, I read Lore Olympus and A Touch of Darkness because I had this idea for a video where I was gonna read all the Hades and Persephone's retellings, compare them, and tell you which one I thought was the best. I read 2 Hades and Persephone's retellings. This is the last book I was gonna read for that video. I meant to read it in September, but hurricane prep got in the way and then I didn't read it. And then again, I don't need to keep mentioning it over and over again, but you know, circumstances arise. I didn't get to read this, so I'm pushing it into my October TBR, and this is on my top priority list. I already told you this about. It's Hades and Persephone, a retelling, but it's like super smutty, apparently. I don't know. Haven't read it. I haven't read any Katie Roberts books, but she just came out with a new book called Court of the Vampire Queen, and that book, ooh, vampires, yes, please, love it. I want to read that really badly, but I don't want to buy another one of her books without reading the first book by her that I own, because what if I don't like her writing? I mean, I feel like I'm gonna like it because everybody likes this, and I'm usually generally very easy to please, so I feel like I'm gonna like it, but like, you know, I don't want to buy like too many of her books, like from Barnes & Noble at full price without. Well, actually, this one didn't come from Barnes & Noble, but you get the point. I don't like to buy books, multiple books retail by an author if I'm not sure if I'm going to like them. But like, for example, if I found like anything by her at the thrift store, I'd pick it up because it's like, what's $1, $2? But yeah, weird rant. Let's move on. The next book on my TBR is another like carryover book. Well, this one I actually did start in September. I started this in September. It was one of my 3 book of the month picks from September 2022. I got 100 pages into it. I'm on page 108, and that is Other Birds by Sarah Addison Allen. I am having such a fun time reading this book. It's actually a pretty short book. It's right under 300 pages. I think it's like 285 pages. So it's definitely a book that you could read really quickly. I'm just taking my time reading it. I don't know. I used to be able to read books so fast. Like I recently read the Harry Potter series earlier this year. I was blowing through those books, like 800 pages. I was done in like 3 days. Now, like fast forward to the end of the year, I'm just kind of like really slow when it comes to physically reading right now. I don't know why. It's like, I'm just like, I don't know. I'm just becoming a slow physical reader. I think it's because of all the audiobooks. But I am loving this book so much so far. So this book, you're following our main character, and she goes to this, her mom passes away and she inherited her condo in like Mallow Island, which is in South Carolina. I hope I got the South Carolina part right. I know Mallow Island's correct. And I guess this is where they like make marshmallows, and they have like a marshmallow factory there or whatever. That's what the town was like founded on or known for. Like that's how the town originally made their money. Anyway, so she goes after her mom dies to move into her mom's condo that she inherited because she wants to like feel close to her mother, and she's hoping to find like all these artifacts and like life of her mother in there, and then she does, and she gets disappointed. But the first night there, one of the residents in the condo dies, and she ends up going into this resident's condo to work and like clear it out because that resident doesn't have any family that wants to do that. So she is doing it for her. And you just kind of meet everybody in the apartment complex, and it's just a warm, cozy story. I love all the characters so far. Again, I have 185 pages left, so as of now, I would say it's in that 4 to 5 star range. We'll see when I finish it, but it's definitely like a very warm, cozy, feel-good story. The Barnes & Noble edition of this book is absolutely stunning. So if I'm obsessed with this book and I give it 5 stars, I think I'm also going to go out and buy that edition because it is stunning. So yes, this book is on my TBR, and I'm definitely expecting to finish that one in October. The next book on my TBR is from Bad to Curse by Lana Harper. This is the second book in the Witches of Thistle Grove like little series that Lana Harper is doing. So the first one was called Payback's a Witch. I believe that one came out in like September, October of last year. I read it when it came out, absolutely loved it, and then she released this one in May. I bought it as soon as she released it, but then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna wait to read this in October because it's a witchy rom-com. I'm very excited for this. So in the first book here, it's a sapphic witchy rom-com. Love that. I loved her first one. I feel like I'm gonna love this one, and I think it's a really fun series. And Thistle Grove, bitch, move me there right now. I want to live there. The last book, actually not the last book, second to last book we have is Lore Olympus of Volume 2. I read Volume 1 in September, really enjoyed it. This is Volume 2. I thought Volume 1 was really good for setting up the story of, you know, setting up Hayes and Persephone's relationship. And I'm very excited because I think this one we're actually going to get into their relationship more, get more substance in this book. And I'm very excited about it. I know Volume 3 is coming out soon as well. And I think it's a really fun time. And I'm just like obsessed with these hardcover editions because they're just so stunning and the pages are just such great quality. The artwork is stunning and beautiful, and I'm very excited to read this. I definitely feel like this one will get read. I know like there's books on my TBR I'm like, oh, I know I'm definitely gonna read this one. I know I'm definitely gonna read this one. When it comes to like manga, graphic novels, or like this book I'm in the middle of, it's like I know I'm actually gonna read this because this is gonna just take me, you know, like an hour, 2 hours to read. So this will definitely get accomplished this month. And the very last book on my TBR for the month of October is Good Me, Bad Me by Allie Land. This book, I have no idea when this book came out. I've never heard anybody actually talk about this book. It came out in 2017. So, okay, it's probably why. It's been a while since it's been out, at least 5 years. This book, you're following our main character, Millie, and her mother is a serial killer. And she's like arrested, thrown in jail, whatever. And I think Millie is the star witness at her trial. And it's just kind of about that. And then in the synopsis, it kind of talks about like, is mother like daughter? Is daughter like mother? You know what I mean? Like referencing, is Millie also a serial killer? Does she have some bad tendencies too? So I'm very excited to read this. I just read A Flicker in the Dark and I absolutely love that and enjoyed that book. So you know what? Another serial killer mystery thriller. I'm all here for it. So I'm very excited to read this book and hopefully it's amazing. So that is everything on my October TBR. Oh, actually I have another book on my October TBR. This is like my decoration books. I have like all these like black and gold books as decoration that are sitting right here. And I looked out and the Atlas 6 is there and I'm just like, you know, I need to add this. Okay, the Atlas 6 is also on my October TBR. And I've already read this book, so I think this will be a quicker reread because, you know, I've already read it, so I can read it a bit faster the second time around. But the reason I really want to read this for the second time is because the sequel is coming out, and I feel like so much happened in this book, and I've read so many books since I've read it that I've forgotten some of the details, and I really want to get those details down before I read the Atlas Paradox. So this book is also on my TBR for the month of October, but this will be a reread, which makes it a little lower on my priority list, but also higher on my priority list because the sequel is coming out. Whatever, I don't need to babble. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. I'm sorry about the lighting and the quality and just everything going on. So I hope you guys enjoy, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.